champ, Paulo Vitor Domino Rosa, playing Azorius Control. Has seen enough Uros playing against Jason Bouchard on Mono Green Aggro.
Yeah, I love this.
Azorius Control, of course, the deck that Paulo did use to win the World Championship, so plenty of experience there.
Yeah, and he gets to dodge those main deck Ether Gusts, right?
Oh yeah, that's pretty serious for sure. Can't get around Dispute, but it's hard to get away from all of them.
Yes. They cover a large portion of the color pie.
You see Stonecoil Serpent, the only early action for Bouchard, but Battlefield not really shaping up. Players just hitting land drops so far. Here is an Omen of the Sun. That's going to cleanly jump in front of the Serpent here.
just a 3-mana removal spell.
Gain some life too. Scries a little bit later.
Well, generally you want to leave it around for Urion, right?
I would think so. It's another way you can do it is to Fairy, though. That's going to bounce the Gem Razor for now. See a Temple is going to scry and absorb to the bottom. I think Paulo largely committed to playing this game on the battlefield. And yeah, speaking of playing on the battlefield, Nissa, who shakes the world, shows up.
This is such a PV deck to me.
How's that? Go on.
Well, there's just like a lot of little decisions. It's not real clear how he's going to win the game. It's a slow accumulation of advantage throughout the game.
Yeah, and he's going to definitely bias towards these decks with a ton of micro decisions every turn, and you know he's the reigning world champ for a reason. He's going to navigate them very well.
Yeah, I mean, who am I to criticize one of the best players of all time, right?
So you're saying you were really into Team Reclamation. You like the big explosions. You're going to be less into the blue-white controls?
This just seems like such a grind. Blue-white control in every format. People love it in like Modern or even Legacy. I just don't know why you want to do that yourself, where every round is going to time and there's so many decisions to make. You never get the free win ever, right?
Right.
Like, you know, your opponent misses their first 2 land drops and the game's still going to go 15 turns.
Paulo, in fact, working very hard in this game. A huge swing for 10. Went back to 12 off of an Omen of the Sun. You see him pick up his Yorion, but he's got some work to do here under a Questing Beast, a couple animated lands, and that Nissa just continuing to tick up.
Yeah, then this is a big problem.
Gem Razor. Gonna go on one of these lands. This might be the only time a Gem Razor's ever destroyed an Omen of the Sun. Ooh, and it looks like Gem Razor went under the land.
I was going to ask, what happened here? Why isn't that a 6/6?
Yeah, so if you go over, you get your base 4/4, you get your 3 counters. If you go under, it's just a 0/0 with 3 counters still. So I would chalk that one up to a misclick, personally.
Okay, because it still says Gem Razor, right?
Oh yeah, it's still a Gem Razor.
Well, no, not if it goes underneath, right? Then it's still
is it called Forest at that point?
I'm just...
You know, if we were watching Bouchard's side, we would see very clearly what was selected, how that was working. All right, big swing here. Paulo's going down to 5. You saw a very aggressive fight spell there, taking down one of those 1/1s, and now Shatter the Sky is going to clean up the creatures. Nissa still hanging out on 8.
Oh, but PV is still so far behind.
Yeah, you know, the Nissa going up to 9 now. This Forest alone puts Paulo to 2. Though with Bouchard with 2 cards left over, not adding to the battlefield, what do you think he might be holding here?
Well, he might just be glutted on lands. There's also a chance that he's got... No. Yeah, I'm not sure.
So here's Omen of the Sea. This is kind of exactly enough with this Yorion showing up. You get Omen of the Sun coming back, Omen of the Sea coming back. Paulo goes to 4, gets some 1/1s. This checks the Nissa well enough.
I guess if Jason had one of the fight spells in his hand, you know, that would be a card that would be kind of stuck in his hand that he wouldn't want to cast.
Well, we're getting some information. Bouchard draws, plays a forest, plays both sides of Lovestruck Beast. That last card better be pretty nice if it's going to make these ones winners. See, Nissa is going to use the -8. So what this does, Bouchard is going to search his library for any number of forests. I assume it's just going to be all of them. Put them on the battlefield, and then also gives lands that he controls indestructible. So this 3/3 is going to rumble across. Doesn't matter how it's blocked. Yorion jumps in front. It's possible Bouchard has a backup Nissa in hand.
That would make a lot of sense.
Yorion is going to cut down the first one. And we'll see what Paulo wants to do from here. Not trusting the auto tapper on that field of rune.
Oh, never trust the auto tapper. I mean, if you're speedrunning, you have no choice.
Yeah, it's actually just one of my rules.
Yes.
You gotta use it. Glass Casket, that can still exile a forest, even if they're indestructible. Now, has Paulo turned the corner? What does Bouchard need to do to actually cross the finish line? How can he get these last 4 points?
Honestly, I think this is just Paulo's game from here. He's got a couple of the enchantments that he can scry with. He's got another copy of Urian. We see this Narset coming down. His life total is high enough that one shot isn't going to kill him.
Bouchard now out of cards because of that absorb. Elspeth Conquers Death taking care of the beast. You might be right here. Bouchard is in a really tough shape after being very far ahead just a couple turns ago.
Yeah, I wonder if, just making an endless stream of 3/3s instead of ultimating the Planeswalker was a better line. Yeah,
that ultimate at the time, it doesn't immediately add any extra power. The big thing it does is it makes the lands indestructible. It kind of looked to me like it might have signaled a backup Nissa, but Bouchard might have just been, feeling like he was out of gas and just not drawing lands, I guess, is a big enough upside in that spot. You do get all the forests out of your deck anyway.
Yeah, yes. Everything you're saying makes sense. Like, I can see why he took the line, but ultimately, the Nissa just had so many loyalty counters on it that it was going to take 3 attacks from a Urion to get through it. In the meantime, you're just accumulating all these 3/3 bodies. That was probably a better line.
Sure. Yeah, you do have to cross the finish line because once Rosa gets your permanents off the battlefield, that Shatter the Sky just hugely changed the texture of the game, right? And Rosa was just like hanging out with 6 cards in hand.
Yeah, it did change the game. It was still all about the Planeswalker, though.
Sure. See a couple extra copies of Yorion. DeRosa big on this card this weekend. How do you feel about the 4 Yorion 80 card configurations?
Yeah, the spiky part of me says, how can you show up with a deck that's not 60 cards? Honestly, but it's really fun, right? Like, this is a super powerful card. You get to jam just more of your favorite spells into your deck. You're not worrying about making that last cut. And then it's still a competitive deck.
Yeah, so we saw companions kind of show up and totally take over constructed Magic. And then there was a huge rule change. Instead of just being able to cast them as an 8th card in your hand, they cost 3 to put in your hand, and you get them if you're willing to pay, which mostly left Yorion as the only playable companion left over. You were talking about how this deck is very much a Paulo deck. I gotta say, 3 mana, put this card in your hand seems like a very Paulo kind of effect.
Yeah, for this, you're going to spend all this mana right now in your control deck where you don't want to tap it on your main phase in order to potentially get a powerful effect later in the game. Like, choosing when to do this is kind of a tricky, path to navigate, and it's definitely a Paulo type of thing to be doing.
And now the Yorion's just going off. You see Teferi there bouncing things, Omens entering and re-entering the battlefield. Here's a questing beast showing up, threatening to trade with Yorion.
Yeah, it's just, we're going through the motions, but ultimately, Paulo's got all of these permanents in play. He's got all of these cards in his hand. He's just controlling every aspect of the game.
There was an attempt at a large Primal Might. That got hit by Dovin's Veto. Paulo's just going to take the hit from Questing Beast. It was kind of cut down to Teferi, but Bouchard's at 6. Yeah, I suppose you don't need to block with the Yorion when it's pretty easily lethal on the way back. And Paulo Vita or Damo Rosa is going to win game number 1.
This is where it gets funny. Sideboarding with a deck that's 80 cards is like, you do it, but do you even really bother?
There are some dynamic changes here on the sideboard, though, I will say. You see these Archon of Sun's Grace. That's been pretty important for these Azorius decks in recent standard formats. That kind of ask Bouchard, do you still want to have Primal Might in your post-sideboard configuration? Is it, as you say, like, how seriously are you wary of playing 80 cards as opposed to 60?
How seriously am I wary? Well, it's tough because we've been taught as competitive players, some people call it the min-maxing, where you're looking for just the slightest little edge over time. It's going to add up, especially when you play hundreds or thousands of games across your career. So it's just been hammered into me my whole life. I'm going to play 60 in Constructed. I'm going to play 40 in Limited. People are like, oh, but that 41st card, what difference does it make? And I'm just like, no, you're wrong. That's the way I've approached the game forever. So when someone, is like, hey, you get to play Yorion out of your sideboard in 80 cards, it's just like, wait, what? Like, I don't even know how to think about this.
So if I come and show you my draft deck and I say, hey, Craig Crumples, I respect your opinion on Limited, are you counting to make sure I didn't just hand you 41 cards?
No. I mean, if you were just like, what do you think of this deck? I'll share my opinion on the deck. And I also understand that people participate in the game in very different ways that I do. So if there are people that enjoy playing 80 cards or 100 cards or 4,000 cards or whatever the case may be, I want them to enjoy the game the way that they enjoy it.
But I'm trying to win with my 41. It's a Grand Prix. Are you telling me to make a cut?
Yes.
All right.
That's fair, right?
Yeah, that's fair. I just wanted to know. Just picking your brain.
Sure.
You got to stand for something. I respect that you have a position.
All right.
And Bouchard opening up here, we see Barkhide Troll on both sides of Lovestruck Beast, some exchange with Omen of the Sun, but Paulo is still pretty comfortably at 19, using the Birth of Meletis and this 0-4 token to really stem the bleeding. Yeah,
I mean, he has a Wrath in his hand. The Lovestruck Beast can't even be attacking right now. There's a lot of good things going on for Paulo here.
See Shifting Ceratops showing up and getting haste for Bouchard, but that means that it's the only relevant attacker. As you mentioned, the Lovestruck Beast has to hang back to Rosa to 14. Is it time to pull the trigger on the Wrath, do you think? Well, I guess it's not. Elspeth Conquers Death showing up.
I was going to say, with the 0-4 wall holding off the 3-3 and the Elspeth Conquers Death able to take out the only other attacker, I like this line.
Back up Lovestruck Beast for Bouchard. Heart's Desire turns on the first 5/5 and a Shifting Ceratops. That's going to gain haste, so Bouchard could potentially make a pretty big attack here. And DeRosa's tapped out, so yeah, a lot of creatures coming in. Is this the turn? Is this the Wrath turn?
Yeah, I think that this all developed actually very well for Paulo, where the opponent just feels obligated to, get the maximum amount of pressure on the board, and now they're playing into the Wrath even more.
Paulo looking at 0-4 on 3-3. Suppose the other line, Yorion blinking Elspeth Conquers Death. This is one of the more powerful things we do see Azorius Control do.
I was going to say that this is also just ridiculous, right? Where he's going to get 2 more life, 2 more 1/1s, exile another creature, have the Yorion on the board.
There's Yorion. Elspeth Conquers Death going to go away. It's going to come back. It's not a traditional Oblivion Ring. It's just going to blink another thing. Omen of the Sun comes back. Paulo to 6. Gets 2 1/1 tokens. And God, he's just going to have that Shatter as kicker this whole game, isn't he?
Yeah, and if I'm on Jason's side of the board, I'm frustrated with the number of lands that I've drawn this game.
Yeah, no kidding. What is that? 7 lands there. Just a Lovestruck Beast and 1 card in his hand. You see Lovestruck Beast trades with the Yorion token. Backup Beast shows up, and Barkhide Troll is the last card. Elspeth Conquers Death goes to Chapter 2. Paulo considering his options here. Starts with Omen of the Sea.
Yeah, it's funny playing the Omen because all it does is give you more options, right?
Paulo is not one to shy away from options.
So true.
On the topic of options, Teferi Time Raveler, -3 on your token. Turn off your Lovestruck Beast. That seems pretty good. Leaving up Ether Gust and 3 blockers. Bouchard draws the only card in his hand. Is there a way Bouchard can cut through this? What is he looking for here?
You know, honestly, I think when you show up with the mono green deck, you say if the game gets to this point, I'm just not winning. You know, some of the decks play the Great Henge, and that's a card that could potentially snowball, 2 or 3 creatures into each other. But with the way that this game is played out, and Paulo having so many cards in his hand and so many more resources still at his disposal, I just can't imagine that there's a line where Jason walks away the victor in this game.
A big one here is that Ether Gust that Paulo left up. There's an attempt at a Gem Razor. That'll get gusted. And I believe that means Elspeth Conquers Death is going to hit Chapter 3 on Paulo's turn. That means Yorion. That means Double Omen. That means Teferi gets another bounce.
Yeah, it's just card advantage into card advantage.
Barkhide Trolls are going to do their best. Paulo is going to block them both. That's just a good, honest person's Magic card, the Barkhide Troll.
Oh, it is. Yeah. 2 mana for your 3/3, and it's not just, it's 2 green mana. You can't just put this guy into any deck.
Yeah, oh no. You gotta mean it if you're gonna register Barkhide Troll. Though you do also gotta mean it if you're gonna register Yorion, and Paulo means it in a big way. There returns the Yorion, 2 Omens, and Teferi Time Raveler blinked. You see a Temple of Enlightenment as a land return as well. Not interested in a second Teferi. Still just gonna hang on to the Shatter the Sky. That one, I think, gonna be in Paulo's hand when he wins this game.
I think so too. He was so patient with it, and every turn it looked even more juicy and even more juicy, and then it was just like, oh no, I've gotten so far ahead, I don't even need this anymore.
That's gotta be satisfying. It's like a bonus mode, right? An achievement unlocked to play the entire game with a Wrath that you never play.
Does it count as more than 1 win? Like, it rounds it up to like...
It should. Yeah, I think Paulo should advance to 4-0 if he pulls this off.
All right.
We'll talk to Jared Silva about that.
I was going to say, we'll have to message the people running this event for us.
Yeah, currently no rule in place, but I think you make a very good point. Gem Razor redeployed. That's going to deal with the 0-4 wall. We see Omen of the Sea from Paulo. But Yorion's a 5-6 because of Elspeth Conquers Death. So that 5-5 Gem Razor, not very impressive. And now Paulo gets to untap. Remember that Time Raveler came back last turn at the end step. It's got 4 loyalty. It's ready to bounce. Narset's going to show up. Ticks down, grabs Absorb. That covers a lot.
It does. There were 2 Elspeth Conquers Deaths in there. I'm surprised he didn't want one of those.
Yeah, I think it's just it must be a statement that Paulo's not concerned about the battlefield, right?
Correct. He's got that all locked up, and now he has his insurance policy on top of it.
And Time Raveler is just going up to 5. And so that means that Paulo has instant speed Shatter the Sky if he were so inclined. But you and I know that this Shatter is probably never being cast.
It's just there to look nice.
It's like a safety blanket. Yeah, nothing can go wrong as long as I have you, Shatter. Here is another Elspeth Conquers Death showing up off of the second activation of Narset.
Ryan, how do they get these time-shifted matches to work? Who records these?
So what we do is we get our players just on Discord, and then we have it recorded as it happened, and we play back the recording later. And that's the reason that we don't see the hand cam in the time-shifted match for the opponent.
Okay, Discord records things? I don't know how any of this stuff works.
I believe that we are recording it in-house from SCG director Kyle's desk.
Okay, he has his cell phone recording his monitor.
I believe it's a bit more sophisticated than that. I do not want to speculate on how Kyle does his job. I try to do mine and let him do his.
Fair enough.
If this is on a cell phone, it does look very good. Question piece shows up. That's worth the absorb, I guess.
I've dialed in a couple of times the past couple weekends to watch some of the coverage and just continue to be, I don't know if surprised is the right word, but I just enjoyed the production value of it.
Oh, yeah. No, very, very happy with the job that everyone behind the scenes is doing here to make these tournaments happen for the people at home. Director Rob throwing some shade at Craig behind the scenes.
He often does. Oh man, look at this.
Paulo, he kind of had a clean walk-in with Yori on the back of 5 4 times. He's going to dream bigger.